should we maybe start already with presenting ourselves? I think that could be a great way to start. So yeah, welcome to the webinar about turning energy optimization into a new revenue stream. So with a really great partnership together with B-Energy and Wise.Energy. Maybe we can present a little bit ourselves, Elias and I. So I'm Julien. I've been active in the energy transition world since around 9 years. Started with a company launched within a famous energy company in East Africa, doing microgrid, smart microgrid in rural areas. What I mean is mixing technology with the right financial system always has been there since a long time, and super interesting to see this evolving and the technology evolving. And I also recently co-founded IKEA Solar, so the installer of IKEA in Belgium. And yeah, facing a super high growth. And with Wise.Energy, I've been building the company for around 5 years. And what we do is pretty simple. It's really to make decarbonation profitable and accessible for all companies, SMEs and industries. And with that, we have a solution that makes a bridge between the real operations of customer side, of a company side, and all the financial leverages and the financial opportunities of the energy market, with a strong focus on energy independence and profitability. So yeah, that's a bit in short what we do.
Perfect. Thanks, Julien, for the first introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Elias Vandeputte. I'm working at Belgian Eco Energy, and we're working also together with Wise.Energy, of course. That's why we're doing a webinar. And with Belgian Eco Energy, we're working a lot around flexibility. We are an energy supplier of energy in all regions in Belgium. And next to that, we're also an energy producer. We have a biomass plant of 20 megawatts, for instance, and a lot of wind turbines, especially in the Walloon area. And we want to help our customers with the energy transition at the lowest cost. That's our mission. And we do that with different teams within our portfolio. So we have a big interest in being very transparent to end customers, and also to do as much as possible regarding flexibility. So we work together with different steering parties and different hardware parties to make the most value for every battery, every solar asset, wind asset as possible. So an open source supplier and producer of electricity for the Belgian market. And maybe one thing before I forget, we're based in Ghent and in Mechelen, Malines, but yeah, active in whole Belgium.
Perfect, and it's a good bridge what you just said with the rest of the presentation we have here, where the goal is to take a little bit of a step back and showing how both B-Energy and Wise.Energy are bringing value to you and to the market. Super interesting trend is this is literally a graph posted by Elia in Belgium, showing the electrification trends from today until 2050. And roughly in 2025, there was around 78 terawatt hour of electricity consumption. And we see that they are really anticipating a huge growth on that trend. So basically switching more from fossil fuel energy or other source of non-renewable energy into more electricity. And in that electricity part, as you see here in this graph, in orange, in green and blue, it's mainly renewable energy, which is good news. Also, indeed, good news, but also challenges, right? As in this forecast, actually, even nuclear is going to be pretty minimalistic, and that means that the more renewable energy on the grid, the more changes from the weather, and every time there is these changes, it's an opportunity to actually generate new revenue, either as a company or as an industry or on other level. So yeah, super interesting trends that follows also the electrification of vehicles and so on. So it's
Yeah,
nice to see that. Yep.
I think especially in these interesting geopolitical times, electrification is key to be more independent with Belgium. And as if we're also dropping nuclear step by step, it is important to not get back to too much gas, of course, for different reasons. So therefore, a big growth in the renewable assets and also storage of renewable assets, storage of via batteries, for instance, is very important. But we also see a lot of movement in the market of e-boilers to create value, create heat via electrical sources instead of gas. So it's an interesting trend, and it's a big next step. A lot of movement was in the past years in the battery market and the solar market before, but now we think more and more will happen in the electrification of heat. It's a must, in fact.
It's a must, and as you said, as a trend, you have this intermittent, this less predictable way of producing energy, which also means that, as you said, storage is interesting, but also you don't always need a battery to do flexibility in a company. That's a bit the point that we want to raise later on. The flexibility is, yes, it's about storage, but it can also be on other assets, and it's a full strategy to actually implement in your company. So some of the trends that we identified, of course, is the complex regulations and the market changes. For example, we had more than 500 hours of negative energy prices last year in Belgium. It was roughly around 400 hours in 2024. So that really means that there is a trend where sometimes the grid has too much power, mainly renewable power, and the only way for them to incentivize people to consume at that time, because there is a surplus, is to go negative, which is good, but also as a challenge, right? So if as a company you can leverage on that and really take those negative hours at the right time, it's very interesting for your business case as well. And the regulatory, as you know, Europe and Belgium also is mix of different trends, congestion, and so on. Maybe we will go into details of all of them. Second, what we see is in terms of energy financial performance, it's not always super clear for a company exactly based on their existing asset, for example, what is the leverage they can do, but also with a new energy contract, for example, with B-Energy, there is a calculation to do. Okay, what's my return investment? What's my financial performance? And together with B, we have a tool that we use, so we can easily look back in time and see. Okay, imagine if you had a dynamic price for 1 year in the past, what would have been the revenue at that time, or what would have been basically the business case? And as I said, the goal really of the analysis we can do together with B is the fact that we look at your existing assets and capex and look at, okay, what can you do better, or what can you do more? And it's usually starting from any building from 500 square meter or 1,000 square meter. The business case is usually a kind of a no-brainer, where we see you have assets that are underused and could be used at a better timing. So that way you reduce your energy bill, and at the same time you can generate more revenue, helping the grid, doing the stabilizing the grid. And yeah, we go into more detail just after about this, but the goal is really to look at what do you have and what can you do more with what you have, and including with a smart energy contract. And then finally, you will see that probably later, there is a constellation of energy solutions. It's also super interesting because it's exciting times. As you saw, the market is changing a lot, which means that innovation is really required. And we are partnering with a lot of companies doing very precise actions in the value chain, so that we can help you all together as partners, bring you the best solutions on the market. So together with B, we are open, of course, to all integration with all solutions. And also we work with some of the solutions, and we can advise you based on your case. We can advise you what's the one with the most track record, for example. But it's a case by case.
As a supplier, we see a lot of clients that are investing as well in new batteries, etc. But as Julien said, it is important to also look at what you currently have, and if there's room for improvement on that side. So with Bieber, the energy supply, we're also we have the ecosystem with different flexibility parties in the market. But also the step before, if you want to make an investment, then I think it's also wise to go via Julien, to have a clear ROE, a clear pathway. Where are you going? So we as a supplier, we also make it happen at the end. But the step before could also be to get in talk with Wise. And yeah, a lot of energy solutions, a lot of assets that can be steered. That's something good, but it can be quite difficult to follow up on all of that. So you have different hardware parties, different steering parties. So we try to make to give you some clarity on that as well. So for our customers, we also do some advice to put them in the right direction, and together with the end customer, look at the most logical next steps to greenify, to electrify their portfolio.
Exactly. Super clear. So, and to go one step ahead about this, just wanted to highlight a bit the big changes that most companies have today. First of all, if you look at all the renewable energy that is produced and at the time that is consumed hour by hour, you have a match roughly a little bit about a third of the time. So that means that 2/3 of the time you have a mismatch where you actually had renewable energy, cheap and low carbon intensive energy 1 hour before. You didn't use it, and you are actually using high price energy. So it takes into account in here both energy that is produced locally, but also the price of energy as a market. So it's super interesting to see how we could match better hour by hour renewable and consumption. And then second, the more renewable energy you have, but the more the weather is impacting the production and consumption. Forecast is more and more difficult. As you know, weather forecast is not always precise. So with that regard, it creates instability. It can create problems like blackouts, like we already had in the past in Europe. And concretely speaking, with a smart combination of steering solution and the right energy contract, you can easily switch from a 37% matching renewable to up to 80%. That's typically when you have multi-assets, or you will have a good level of assets that can be steered. So it's for specific industries, it can be reached. And on top of that, so you can reduce your energy bills. I can go more into details on what are the leverages exactly for that. But when you help the grid stabilize, so when you help them to go from an instability part to a more stable, that's what we're showing here on the green part. The grids likes that, and they actually generate generate revenue for you. So every time you go from an unstable part to a more stable. If you look at all the assets combined, it's around 120,000 euros per megawatt per year. That this is coming directly from Elia website called What's Happening. They have a simulator for that. So it's taking into account e-boiler, batteries, and all the assets. But just to give you a rough estimation, that probably there is existing capex, existing asset on the company, and you could leverage that both for consuming at the right time and also generating new revenue thanks to helping the grid stabilizing.
I think that's a good bridge to the next slides. So it's a complex market. Here you see an overview of different markets that are existing, and a lot of those markets are also an opportunity to optimize your assets on. It all starts with your own production plans, if you have that, or at least your consumption. And then you can also do financial hedging via the different forward markets to perform a hedge on the forward price, the index price we call it. So if you want to hedge on the calendar, quarter, or monthly base, that's something we support. But if you have different flexible assets, it's more logic to stay on a dynamic energy contract, and to actively improve your assets. And you can do that on the day-ahead market. That's the most common market. So that's something that bring a lot of opportunities. For instance, with the solar, that's back again. Let's say from the past couple of days. This weekend we had a lot of hours with €0 per megawatt hour price, even some negative hours, and you have a big spread between the early prices in the morning and in the evening. So you have high prices over there, and you have those cheap prices at noon. So that's opportunity, of course, to push your consumption as much as possible to those low prices. And then you have also intraday imbalance markets that are also very interesting to optimize. They also have the congestion markets, so Fluvius and Horas Areza are also working on that. So that's a different market that's available. And then afterwards, you also have BSP markets from Elia directly, FCR and Avrar, and that's also something that different steering parties are offering in the market, and that we're also happy to support. So a lot of markets are available, but with steering, most important thing is often still the self-consumption part. So everything starts with avoiding grid cost a bit with self-consumption, and on top of that, we look at optimizations like they had and imbalance and others. So that's a bit in short about the energy market. At the end of the day, your supply and demand should be equal, and that's the goal, let's say, of the energy market.
It's a super clear slide explaining all those products. If you're used to it, it's easy. But when you discover it the first time, there are a lot of abbreviations, and I think that's super clear. Also showing the fact that the more in real time you are, the more stable you should be. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting point. Yep, please.
Yeah, then about the markets. So a lot has been said in the press as well about the markets and the opportunities for batteries and others. And there is some movement, of course. So also Picasso joined. That's making the imbalance markets more European. So the volatility on the markets on a daily basis is dropping, especially on the imbalance market. But there are still some interesting opportunities. You often still see some negative imbalance opportunities for batteries, and so still batteries optimizing on imbalance is interesting, but also on Belpex, like the spread on the Belpex, the day-ahead market, is still there. But just something that you take into account if your installer party is promising you a payback time of 3 years for your battery. You should probably double check it a bit because it's a fast market. It's evolving very fast. The business case made last year cannot be accurate more today probably. So yeah, together we try to get as much value as possible out of the existing market. A business case can help, but the fact, the reality at the end is that that we should look for the best solution, and that's something that we're doing together.
Super clear. Maybe one question also for you, Elias. We see that the Belpex volatility is a little bit more in 2025, very slightly. Do you have a bit an idea of the reasons behind that, or how?
Yeah, so a lot of things happen in the energy market, of course. So one big thing that happened last year was shutting down of a lot of our nuclear plants. So we have less nuclear plants available, and it evolved more into being reliant a bit on our own assets, solar and wind, together with some gas turbines of gas installations, and also neighboring countries. So that's one of the reasons. So the cheap old nuclear plants were getting out of date. That's one of the reasons, and but on the long term, we still expect a lower energy costs, both for gas and for electricity. And for electricity, that's mostly because of renewable assets are pretty cheap, and they're dropping the market down to a lower level. So I guess the cheaper season for for solar is started again. So we will see low prices at noon, but now it will become really interesting because the gas prices are on the rise because of the war that's happening at the moment. So we will see larger gaps between the noon hours and the morning and evening hours. So yeah, every day is interesting in the energy markets, and it's all linked to geopolitics, to local assets, to the weather. It's all a bit linked. So
Exactly.
very interesting industry.
Indeed, and that's why it's always nice to have these, I think, these updates, because all those parameters are interconnected and can impact the performance. And talking about those different factors or partners, that's a bit how we position ourselves with Wise.Energy, where we have an ecosystem of partners, of course, with B-Energy as on the energy supplier part. Again, we are open and we work with all the energy suppliers, and we're having like a good amount of projects also together with B. And the goal is really for you as a company to help you navigate the constellation of solutions, right? And easily, based on simple data that you can get, in our solution, we can drag and drop your quarterly or data and show basically based on your existing assets with some sort of a digital twin, some sort of an ID card of your energy profitability. You can easily look at the different cases and simulate. Then, depending on what you want, we can simulate the financial performance of the project. And as you see here, so we work also with different steering parties. So here, we call EMS. Again, it's examples, and we have a longer list, but we didn't want to have too many logos. But then also, of course, flexibility providers. So these are the providers who are working more on the trading part to help, for example, the stabilization effect with Elia. Financing as well, more on the leasing part, and we have a concrete example just coming after that. And then we also are very important for us is the carbon audit part. So we before and after a project we do, there is very often a before and after CO2 reduction as well. So it's super interesting to track that, and we have some great partners about that subject. And in short, it's maybe a little bit of a repetition, but we show that with a typical project that we have, we could generate gross revenue around 120,000 euros per megawatt per year. Of course, really dependent on many parameters, but again, that's coming from the Elia website. And then we have also CO2 that we can reduce based on your consumption. So that's really where we go to. And what is interesting from the aspect of B as well is you guys are also integrated with many other actors that we are also integrated with, including open database, but also steering parties.
Maybe if I can just tell a bit more about it. So just as Wise, we're fully open source to integrate, to communicate with different parties. So we know a lot of technical parties and also flexibility steering parties. And we just try to get the best solution in the market available for our customers. And so we don't have any vendor lock-in, no lock-ins at our side. So we just do our energy contract, and then we provide you with the advice with the support necessary to make your assets steerable. And we one thing is very important from our side is that you will be steered on individual basis. So every customer gets individually improved. That's something that's very important for us, because then in that way it's also way more transparent for the end customer. So transparency is key for us. And we're energy supplier for electricity, offtake, and injection, where we see a lot of growth also from the injection part, because injection is something that's more hard to tackle, let's say. But some steering solutions are also helping on that. And next to that, we're also a supplier from gas, of course. So happy to discuss that afterwards with some of you guys.
Yes, exactly. And as you said, the transparency part is the same for us, super important, because it's both about values, but also in terms of understanding the whole business case. You need to understand the assumptions behind it. You need to understand the source. and the final result. And that's what we have in our tool as well. You can easily select one type of contract, for example, B-Energy contract as well. And you see the value stack of your existing asset, maybe also additional assets if you want to improve your energy performance. So yeah, I think having this very clear and transparent information is key to navigate the electrification, the energy transition, and transparency is super important. Knowing that we're coming sometimes from a past where the energy sector is a little bit blurred or not always super transparent. So we want to position also ourselves there where everything is easy to understand, and if you really want to challenge as well the model, we're super happy to discuss the different pieces of it. Maybe just probably a little bit of a repeat, but it never hurts. So in short, what is the flexibility in the energy market? It's all about having the ability to use or produce energy at the right moment. We like to say sometimes at the wise moment, but that's the idea, right? It's about what are you going to use when, and at which volume, at which price, and with doing that, taking into account the parameters we talked about, you help stabilize the grid, also helping to reduce the price of energy at some point, and you get rewarded for it, right? And this reward is composed usually in two parts, depending on your building, depending on your strategy and so on. But it's usually you reduce your energy bill, and sometimes you can even generate new revenue. So you literally send an invoice to a balancing partner working with Elia, and that's basically the graph that I was showing.
I would say to get on with the word jokes, be wise. That's very important to choose the right partners in this complex market, and then together we look at the best solution for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, it's changing often, fast, and I think together with B, we are pretty up to date, and we like to be even one step ahead with a different approach, and it's all about having the right set of solutions as well, the right mix, and happy to keep on working with this. This is to go a little bit more into detail in what I was explaining about the fact that you can pay less your energy bill on one hand. That's what you see here on the green part, on the left part, and then the revenue you could generate. So these are some of the energy technical terms. But in short, everything we call about behind the meter are the assets that you have on site. Really, all the consumption. It can be business operations, it can be electric chargers, it can be HVAC. You see where I'm going. It's everything that you pay the electricity for, right? So these three leverages that we have here, there are more than that, of course. But if you really select the one we see today that are very interesting, is first how to optimize the grid fees. Then how do you optimize your energy price, and how do you optimize your energy volume? So how do you do that? One of the ways to do it for grid fees is to implement peak shaving. So again, we will work with the right steering party, the right EMS, who can look at what you have, and even without a battery, for example, with EV chargers, there is a way to actually do a smart peak shaving, and in Flanders is capaciteitstariff. And in Wallonia, starting from a certain size of a company, you also need to pay it already. And then, in short, we're gonna make sure that you pay less taxes, less grid fees on your energy bills. Then second, you have the part where we see if you switch from a variable contract or fixed contract to a full dynamic, so meaning that every 15 minutes your price of energy changes, then typically a type of contract that B-Energy can propose. It's very interesting to look, okay, what would happen today if I would have switched my energy contract to a dynamic contract last year. This without any optimization, just purely on the business case, how much money would have win, or what's the business case, and so we can do that with our tool, and we also share a similar tool with B, and that's interesting to know, you as an energy manager or as procurement manager, if you need to make these decisions, it's important to do it with numbers. So of course, easy to do it with the past, more challenging to do it with the future. But it's already a good way for you to see position yourself depending on your habits. What are the can you actually leverage easily on those spreads that we mentioned at the time, where price of energy can be very high during the day and then it's very low at some point, and there is a bridge to gap basically there where you can generate some revenue. So yeah. Second, in short, is to see, okay, what's the business case if you go dynamic pricing, and if you do steering also based on that, yeah, what's the additional business case that we can really analyze. And then third is, okay, especially if you have renewable on site, it's more and more no-brainer to have solar panels, sometimes wind as well, on the industrial or company side. And that's the easiest win, is the energy don't consume, as we say, right? So if you're able to be more energy independent because you have energy on site, it's pretty interesting to see how we have analyzed dozens and dozens of cases, and we see usually PV plants, for example, are over-dimensioned. It was also regulation from the past that was incentivized from a certain period of time. But now today, you see that you have this surplus, this injection, which often happens to be quite cheap. Basically, you sell the energy sometimes without any curtailment, without any steering optimization. You sometimes sell it for 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour, so it's pretty cheap. Well, if you actually apply a case where you can basically inject at the right time, so we take into account all the market conditions, you can sometimes double the case. So having double revenue from what I just mentioned in terms of injection. Of course, something case by case. The quick win here usually is to make sure that the volume of energy that you inject, the volume itself, to reduce it. So a lot of cases we have is typically companies with EV chargers, for example, and solar production. They have, for example, 50% self-consumption or 60. So you have an interesting gap to bridge, and instead of injecting this energy, there is an interesting case where we push the EV chargers of the employee of the company to be closer to noon. So, of course, during spring, summer, these are the best times when you are closer to noon, you have more solar production, and it can really be. We always fit the algorithm and the steering party we advise. We always do it based on your operations. So this is basically something we see that works pretty good. Is the first hour there is nothing, there is no optimization. So if somebody wants to plug in and plug out, they can come and go. And then starting from hour 2 to hour 5 or 6, then we can basically impact the consumption based on the production on site. So we will not put the charge to 0 kilowatt hour. We'll put it to a minimum part, and then steadily we will ramp it up until the time when there is more solar production. So this way, you self-consume more, you inject less, and so at the end of the year, at the end of the month, you actually buy less energy from the grid. So my example here was just to explain you that it's possible to do flexibility, right? To actually shift energy without any battery. Of course, if you had a battery, it's an even easier case. But yeah, we also believe it's important to see, okay, what you can do already with your existing, and then of course proceed phase by phase. So that's really those 3 leverages: grid fee optimization, energy price optimization, energy volume optimization. And then once this analysis is done, and again we have a tool where you can do that in minutes. Basically, it's not some slides that are done more on the advising part, but it's really a software that we built to easily have a good idea on that. And then on top of it, we're going to look at other assets you have on site that could help the grid stabilize. So we put a focus first on the site itself, so on the behind the meter optimization. So we're going to leverage everything, but usually even after simulating all of this, there is still a percentage of asset that is not used, for example, during the weekend, and that could help the grid stabilize. And yeah, again, it's a plus on your P&L And a concrete example that we have can be a battery, of course. Also, backup generators. We have a project with Flexity on this, for example, with one of the steering party we work with, and it's sometimes you have backup generators that are not used at all, and that can be available for the grid, and based on that, it can generate revenue that was not there yet. But we can go more into detail maybe later. I don't know, Elias, if you want to add on this.
Yeah, I think regarding EV chargers, it's very important to work with the right hardware.
Yes.
Because if you have if you have an EV charger and a battery on the same location, it's important that the EV charger gets priority before the battery. Because what happens a lot in some cases is where the battery is taking from the grid at max level, but then there is no room anymore for the EV charger. So that's of course not something you want. And then I know 2 or 3 hardware parties already have made a solution for this, to be able to give priority to the EV charger, and afterwards the battery steps in. So that's something that's really important. If you have a more complex setup, that could also be very important to you.
It's a very good point indeed, and I think that's why the behind the meter part here is super important. Is to really get that case, and indeed having the steering party to prioritize the comfort and the basic needs we have, including EV chargers, and indeed there is a way to do still front of the meter optimization, but always give some availability for the site, and there is a balance to do, and it's, as you said, it's a case by case thing, and that's where we help you as a company to identify what's the perfect split basically between the two.
Yep. That's it.
Yep.
Maybe some of you don't know B yet, so I will very short explain how we are structured. I won't do a big commercial talk. I don't think it's necessary. So we're 100% Belgian, and that we're also pretty unique. So a lot of the big 5 energy suppliers, we call them, they're in the foreign hands. So I think it's refreshing to have a 100% Belgian company. And we are structured within 3 different divisions. So we have our own production, a biomass plant that you can see in the picture, and a lot of wind turbines next to Chimay, for instance. And then we have our flex and portfolio management division, where I'm in. That's the division for the complex cases, imbalance, hedges, and complex cases like steering of customers. And then we have our classic supply division for the more off-the-shelf solutions. That's also very important, of course. So B2B integrated company, since 2010, already active in the Belgian market, with big ambitions in the Belgian market to make further growth. So happy to make that growth together. And then maybe next slide also gives some clarity on our position, let's say, in the flexibility market. So we try to be independent flex partner for our customers. So with our Beehive platform, it's our ecosystem effect, where we are the energy supplier, and we work together with hardware and steering parties to make the best solution. And Wise comes before that, even recording business case, etc., and support on other stuff. But yeah, there are different hardware parties available. Some of them have a connection with a steering party. Some have a connection with another steering party. So it's very important to choose the right setup. You also have hardware parties that are connected with different steering parties. I think that's also always very important, that you have hardware that's integrated with different steering parties, and also a supplier, of course, that can communicate and nominate with different parties. So we're pretty unique in the market with having this open source approach, while other suppliers push more one solution, one hardware solution, or one steering solution. We keep our eyes open because it's all happening very, very fast in the market, and we try to have the best solution for our customers. Yeah, so that's in short.
Exactly, and to have a complementary point on this, indeed, as you said, having this open bridges also is important because with the geopolitical aspect and just even the local regulation changes, it's important to be agile there, and I think that's it's a good approach. It's the same for us, where we partner up with also different hardware parties, steering parties, but we're going to select also the hardware parties and the steering parties where we have the most track record. So we can also show you the different track record of different type of case. Of course, every case is different, but there are also patterns, and especially in some industrial cases, some retail, and also everything with hotels. It can also be some common case, and that's easier to prove you. Okay, we had this mix of solution. This is the impact in CO2 and revenue. So you have more probability to reach this kind of same results. That's the idea. And yeah, having this agility is pretty important. And that's the bridge to the next part, which is of course a key part of this webinar, is the case study we have together. One of them that we have with B. So in short, it's a company called Deltrian. We will show you a little bit details just after as well. So Deltrian it's a company that they are manufacturing air filters for hospitals or other type of customers. And we have a very nice case where the customer got installed just a 300 kilowatt peak. They have a couple of EV chargers as well. They also have heat pumps. So super interesting case. This happened very recently. We had them make a whole business case, and together with Econocom, which is also an important partner of us, also innovative and agile. So if you don't know them, it's a pretty big company in IT. They are doing leasing of IT materials, and they also have a business unit in energy. And in short, they help to really go to a case where we think new investment in renewable is expensive and non-accessible to, okay, there is a way to actually leverage existing financial assets and not investing the whole capex, right? In short, they do energy as a service kind of, so it's a leasing of energy assets. So I can give you the business case in the high level. With 300 kilowatt peak of panels, that's a good plan for that size of company. Plus EV chargers, everything was done in a 5 years leasing contract. After 5 years, you have only a 1% option to buy back, and starting from month one, in average, you have a cash flow positive, right? So it's not always cash flow positive, but it's roughly break even, or so that means that you basically can upgrade your energy independence strategy, really put things in place, and make sure you don't need to get that cash yourself, and also preserve basically your credit lines. Again, we work also with banks and other financial institutions, but this innovative approach also is important to both have good energy contracts with B, also Econocom interesting leasing partners, and we come here as the party where we integrate the different solutions, and also can give you basically a view on the operational part of your assets, and also the financial performance, making sure that you can simulate new strategies, and every 6 months, every year, Deltrian can shift their strategy based on the whole data we gathered, and they can easily visualize it and see, okay, what is the position we need to take today. So yeah, for B-Energy, super happy to work together with them on a dynamic contract. Maybe Elias, if you want to add something on this, feel free.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting case study where we will we steer the asset with an existing hardware solution. So yeah, it's to optimize the cost, the injection fee for the end customer with the hardware controller and a chosen steering party. So it's an interesting setup, but it's something that we do from day to day. So it's nothing new, because it's a typical case with PV and battery as well. Yeah, it happens a lot. It's something that's scalable. So it's very important that we're ready to onboard new customers and new assets when it's needed.
Yep. And to add on that, the contract here is dynamic contract for offtake, but also for curtailment. So I mean, a dynamic contract for injection. The customer didn't have that, so they used to have another installation which was with lower power. They had a fixed energy contract, and the revenue they will get from that was pretty low. Now that they have this, they know that they can have a better injection revenue, but also with the curtailment together with Belpex, they had an imbalance. So we forecasted to do at least 60 or 70% more revenue compared to a typical fixed or variable contract without steering. So that's interesting to see the whole thing working together, having the energy contract that can allow curtailment. So for those who don't know about curtailment, is the fact that you're gonna cut a little bit of the injection. So you know that price is gonna be bad basically in an hour or so, or in the next 15 minutes. So because of that, you're gonna inject less, and because you inject less, you are actually generating more revenue. It's a bit counterintuitive, but that's because there is sometimes too much surplus on the grid on the market, and having this kind of dynamic approach really helps the here Deltrian, the use case to be more agile, more flexible based on what makes more sense to do. And in total, combining the part of smart injection, so injecting at the right time and do curtailment, plus the EV charger self-consumption increase, the fact that it will communicate with the EV chargers and be able to shift the consumption of EV chargers based on the solar production. It will, and we also have an integration forecasted with heat pumps of the office. Something a use case that is sometimes forgotten about, but heat pumps are sometimes set up at time where nobody needs it. So if you are okay to reuse a little bit the coefficient of performance, that's the technical term for heat pumps, and shift it with big blocks, more based on price and more based on the self-consumption. The case is pretty interesting. Here we estimated with very conservative numbers that there would be an estimated 12% of self-consumption increase. The bigger percentages is when you take into account the PV plants, but if you really look just on the steering part, which is behind the meter steering mainly, and a little bit of front of the meter steering, thanks to the curtailment together with B. Yeah, plus 12%. It's actually an interesting case. It's around 11,000 euros of additional revenue without any new capex itself. If you don't do it, you just don't have that revenue on top. And we don't even talk here about the battery. So as you just said, Elias, there is a battery planned to be installed. Now it's in grid study, but the goal is to add a battery on top, and that would be interesting even to do again a webinar maybe in a couple of months and show you the financial performance of what we do without a battery and then with a battery, and those different strategies really help to be more energy dependent and have track record on those performances. And then in terms of CO2 also, there is some CO2 reduction that is interesting. So here we have some cases that we do with Wise. We have around a bit more than 10 sites that are linked with our solution. So together with different partners, and on top of that, we also work more and more with installers and EPC. So B2B installer who can basically take our solution and easily dimension and make simulations for their customers. So engineers and a technical salesperson, they win hours of work every week without having complex Excel files. Everything is in our tool. But some of the cases we have here is Deltrian, as we just mentioned. Then Dolce La Hulpe is the former building of IBM in Belgium, and we also have an EV charger steering there, more on the capaciteitstarief or more on the grid fees. And on top of that, there is a backup generator that is there since a long time, and the estimated result for that also is around 80,000 euros generated for the customer per year, knowing that it will be not used often during the year. So it's it's an existing backup generator that can be retrofitted, so we have different also steering parties for that. And then finally, here in some of the use case we showcase here is a famous steel company, one of the site of ArcelorMittal, where this is purely estimation. It's not live yet, but based on what we see is that there is a part of the process they have, which is an intermittent process that could be shifted, and there are some savings that we could identify there. And that's again a very interesting part, where when you have a dynamic contract, so when your price changes every 15 minutes, you can also yourself, as operating a manual process, you can sometimes make better decisions if you know the energy price from the morning, and you don't need to have everything on a tight schedule, and you have a little bit of flexibility. We also have a tool that advises you automatically every morning what's the best thing to do. But I will move on because there is there is also some time for Q&A. So these are some of our customers as well. ArcelorMittal, for example, as we said, Trendy Foods that we just signed recently, which is pretty big near Liège, and other very interesting, and super happy to partner up also with those customers. And then for B,
I will also really short tell about our references. So these are our steering customers, so customers where we actively steer. Around 200 megawatts already, with different logistic companies like Atunasi. Also some retail companies like all the Aldi sites. It's a very interesting customer as well. And then we have some third-party investors as well, like Greenpulse and Perpetuum Green Invest. Different type of companies, but all with the same request to steer their assets, and we make it possible.
Yes. Right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your attention. We have still a couple of minutes for Q&A. Feel free to shoot any questions, and we can have a look at the chat. Don't be shy. There's no bad questions. All questions are welcome. Right. So I see here from Valentina, what are the future trends regarding energy? From what I can see from what the files we analyze, mainly as we were discussing the interconnection between countries in terms of the grid stability effect. So Picasso, for example, in Belgium, where in short, the south of Europe is going to feed more and more the north of Europe in terms of renewable energy. That means that we need strong connection, but also good technology, right, and forecast to make sure that if a neighborhood country is going to help me stabilize my grid, the whole system needs to be pretty well done. So there's massive investment on this, and actually, when we have this interconnection that are more stabilized, it also has an effect where the different revenue that you would expect from front of the meter flexibility, for example, with the battery, it drops, because basically you are not alone on an island anymore. You're also interconnected with other countries, which is good, because it should drive all the prices also lower. But it's, as you said, Elias, it's important to take into account that in the case where you have when you do a battery case, usually you're very optimistic, but you need to take into account this, let's say, grid stabilization effect on a European scale, to make sure that it's not too optimistic, but it takes into account the fact that those services will be impacted by the neighborhood country. I think that's for me one of the big trends. There are many others also with congestion, for example, but I don't want to talk too much. But yeah, maybe rapidly on this is in the Netherlands, you see this more and more companies as issues having even the capacity they need. And it's already coming in Flanders and Wallonia also. It's planned to happen. So it's important to take into account the fact that the capacity you have on your company today is limited already. You might need more because you need more HV vehicle and you need more electricity need. and it's pretty interesting to actually secure that. And sometimes analyzing your site, of course, is key to make sure you know what you need in terms of capacity. And sometimes batteries can also have this kind of capacity boost, so helping you to get more from your existing grid connection. So these are kind of the solutions. So I would say these are a bit like the two main trends I see now. I don't know if you want to add on that, Elias, or...
Yeah, I think that's pretty correct. So a lot of trends is more assets that can be steered. I think heat is very important. So one of the new topics will be with the heat pumps and e-boilers, making those cases more profitable. I also saw a question from Thomas. He asked for what's the involvement and the steering in the hardware market, and how we see that. I think the hardware market is more and more mature, let's say, because it started a bit before. So you have a lot of hardware parties, but product is more and more reliable. And then you have the steering market, and there are still a lot of different startups that try to make as much value as possible. And I think that's a bit the trend for this year, that all those parties make next steps and become better and better. So I think we will see some improvements on the steering aspect as well, because in the end, if every steering party would have the perfect strategy, then it would be kind of similar. But we're not there yet. Every steering party has a different strategy. So that's something very interesting to follow up on, how everything will evolve.
We agree with this, the fact that at the end of the day, it's nice to also have different approach, different point of view, because reality is a mix of different perception, right? So what I mean is also for the energy market itself, it's nice also to have champions on different strategy and integrate with them, and based on your reality, having the right mix of solutions. Because if everybody steer in the same way, as you said, there is no way to make some leverages or to actually have even one step ahead based on the new market trends. So and in this part of the steering, it's also nice sometimes to see some actors focusing on a very specific features, for example, congestion, coming up more and more in our country as well, and being able to maybe test sometimes the solution already before it really spreads. So that way we can, in terms of timing, already have experience with a typical way of managing energy. So yeah, super clear. Then we have another question from Mezam. So can you explain recent developments about the semi-public charger business, for example, in residential buildings? So indeed, we mainly focus on really the B2B in industrial and commercial sites, but in terms of the public chargers that you can have, so basically from your home, that you propose as also the public grid, I would say, or public map. It's different trends on this, but in short, you have the whole vehicle to grid trend that will happen at some point. There is some laws, European Commission that is not finalized yet on the topic, and I think some manufacturers also of cars didn't finalize completely the case, but at some point, and it could be interesting also for companies. There is the option that as a residential user or private user, you can also use a battery to help a set point so basically you sell your energy to the building that you charge with, and it's a two-way relationship basically, that you can either sell your own energy from your car or buy it, and depending on the energy price, it could be a smart move to do. So we can also see that coming up for typical employees car stations. Again, there is a whole topic, of course, of warranties as well. So how will car manufacturers adapt to that in terms of warranties, because you use the battery more. So I think this is a little bit on the gray area at the moment. Also, not all car chargers can be adapted to vehicle to grid, but could be interesting case to again add a little bit more complexity in the in the whole business case. But definitely, I think with the right parameters and the right setup, the right limits to not having too much use of the battery. That's my personal opinion. To make sure you have a good longevity of the battery. Could be interesting to look in the future. Yeah. I don't know if you Elias, you see some trends also with V2G or.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about V2G, but it's still not happening. So I think it's a bit waiting on government more to come with a solution that works. It is possible from technical point, but then it also remains a bit a question: what will the car manufacturers do? So you have the Renault 5 that's supporting it without losing the guarantee. So it's moving, but it's moving kind of slow.
True.
But of course, it's very interesting. But also with the different company cars and in Belgium, it's also a bit of a risk that you would steal the electricity from your work. So that's something that needs to be covered as well. But it is possible with the right tools. You could easily check the amount of kilowatt hours that is used and check it with the amount of kilometers that's been driven. So, but yeah, I don't think the system is ready for that at the moment. But hopefully it changes soon.
Exactly, and about this, there is always new topics, and I think sometimes it's nice to really focus on the key ones and the different things we mentioned about basically self-consumption, time of use, so about dynamic pricing, of course, behind front of the meter steering as well. There is already a lot of things to take care with this, and always interesting to think of these other exciting trends. But I agree that once, because the regulation is not completely clear yet, it's nice to really focus on what is clear today, and there is already a lot to do. So yeah. Okay, we have another question as well from Laurent. What role will hydrogen play in the energy ecosystem over the next few years? So for hydrogen, today we don't have, regarding Wise, we don't have any sites with hydrogen, but of course there are interesting business cases. Usually it's come directly with an industrial plant where there is some waste of energy or some process that really makes sense. So yeah, we don't have a concrete experience with hydrogen yet, but we in touch with a couple of companies working on it, and I'm super happy to help them make a case and steer the hydrogen part based on energy price, of course, based on imbalance, and having the right asset steering, basically. Yeah, I don't know if you Elias, you have some.
Yeah, we don't have a concrete case neither. We have some customers that are looking into hydrogen, but it's also moving a bit slow. I feel that it's not the easiest business case also to make. For instance, in the logistic industry, there was a time that everybody thought there would be hydrogen trucks, and I think now it's very clear that hydrogen trucks won't be the bigger part, let's say. Like the electric trucks are rising, and they will rise for sure. But for specific topics, specific large companies, hydrogen could also still make sense. Especially, for instance, in the port of Ghent, some companies are looking into it. But we're more focusing on, for instance, at the renewables in Ghent, we have a very big heat capacity, and we're making the biggest heat network in Belgium. So it's directly a link with a heat pipe to an end customer. So that cases are more interesting for us at the moment than hydrogen cases. But it will have a role, but I'm not sure it will have a big role, to be honest.
Right. If there is no further questions, feel free. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Laurent. Feel free if you have one last question, maybe. Or if that's not the case, we can conclude maybe. All right.
Yep. I think if you can share our contact details, then everybody can contact us if they have further questions.
Indeed.
And if they want to work together or to discuss it at least, then I think our mailboxes or phones are open.
Yep, indeed. So feel free to, of course, contact us at any time. You have our direct mail as well as phone number. So happy to discuss your case or partnerships or different ways to keep on growing this very innovative and exciting energy market. And so yeah, again, thanks a lot for your attention, your questions, your interaction, and we'll be happy to see you again for other webinars. So stay tuned also on our channels, LinkedIn channel, both from B and Wise. And yeah, have a great day, everyone.
Have a good day. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we see each other in the future.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.